This might be a bit of an unusual post, and I apologize for that. But I'm really unsure as to where I should place this, and I just need to hear some opinions and thoughts on what is actually happening to me and my life. I find it incredibly disturbing, and the worst part is, it's something I have to face almost daily. I don't know whether there's something going on or I'm just losing my mind. I don't know what to do. I don't want to go too in-depth and bore you with mundane details, but I work in accounting for a reasonably large company that sells and distributes a wide variety of building materials, and all I can actually do is just check the invoices we get, pay them, and store everything for future audits, etc. The job is boring, repetitive, and soul-crushing to the points that I have been feeling extremely down for however many months. Honestly, the things that I do, a monkey can do, provided it was incentivized with enough bananas and maybe a yearly bonus of nuts. Anyway, to not go too far off track, I am part of a 6-people team, and for the past few days I have noticed that there's something strange going on with one of my colleagues. For the life of me, I cannot say what it is, though. There's just something very off with her. I sometimes poke my head up from my monitor and stare her down, and the face she makes when nobody is looking, it just makes my skin crawl. Goosebumps galore. Again, I can't pinpoint exactly what it is, but the longer I look, the more unnatural her face seems. It's as if it's kind of morphed, artificially adjusted from what a normal face should look like one of those digitally created faces by an AI that is not yet able to break through the uncanny valley, but it's quite close. Her movements seem strange to me, too. It does not have enough flow to it. It's like she miscalculates how much energy an action would need and then quickly compensates that by slowing down to a normal level. For example, when you ask her something, instead of turning towards you, she jumps and then straightens her face to be looking directly at you. When she moves, she almost starts running at first, but then slows down. She speaks loudly in a high-pitched voice. When you speak to her, she stares at you. She stares, and it lasts so long, it's extremely uncomfortable. She listens to every word, as if recording it. I asked my other colleagues whether they noticed anything strange about her, but they all said that they haven't, or that they had no idea what I was talking about. I can't believe I'm the only one seeing this. Another strange thing is, I have been working with her for the past 2 years, and I cannot remember when did this all start. I've been working with her for the past 2 years, and I cannot remember when this all started. I feel like I started noticing her weirdness quite recently, but at the same time, if I look back at our time working together, I don't think that she has changed that much. It's quite bizarre. It's not like we were close at any points, but when you spend 9 hours a day, 5 days a week for 2 years with a person, you're going to build some sort of relationship, whether you want it or not. This has been ongoing for a couple of weeks now, and I feel like I noticed these little quirks and strangeness more and more. Yesterday, I mustered the courage to just straight up and ask her. I caught her in the office kitchen after her meal and asked her what was going on. Strangely, she did not seem as confused as our other colleagues, yet instead of a normal answer, she just started babbling about her day. I listened carefully to how she talked and what words she used. Again, there was something clearly off with her little speech. Her voice, again, high-pitched in a way that seemed like it was being put on intentionally. Her sentences did not follow a normal logical pattern, but instead it seemed like she was trying to place as many mundane, daily chit-chat topics, one over the other, as she could. She talked about her cat, the weather, and her new shoes all in one sentence. I feel like I caught up pretty quickly with what she was doing, as she was trying to distract me from my initial question by bombarding me with this bullshit information nobody really cares about. I was strict with her, but polite. I asked her once again what's going on with her, and why does she seem so different. She paused. Her lips moved in her own bizarre little way, and she said that she had been going to these classes. Apparently, she'd become part of this strange group of people that meet up every 3 days or so, sit in circles, do their yoga, and listen to gongs and perform these breathing techniques. She also mentioned something about vocal therapy, where you make random noises that should lead to mental healing. That's the word she used. Healing. Honestly, I don't know much about yoga or whatever she was talking about, but I've seen those Netflix shows and read quite a lot about the mind-bending things these circles tend to do. Her eyes were wide as she told me about this. Her lips were trembling, her fingers intertwined with one another. I swear I saw a hint of desperation somewhere deep inside her eyes, but that was quickly changed with her artificialness. I really was a bit too freaked to continue the conversation, so I just left. Anyway, here I am, reading this now, and I'm not sure what to make of it. I'm kind of hoping you would help me figure this out. Do their circle activities make any sense to you? Maybe you've heard of some sort of cult that does these things, or maybe you can share some resources for me to read up on. I appreciate any input. Today is January 26th. I'm just reading this date to make a bit more sense to you. I jotted down the above part last week, but decided not to post it. I read through it once again and felt that I didn't really have anything concrete, and I might have appeared a bit schizophrenic. Hell, even I started doubting whether there was anything going on. But today is Tuesday, 9 o'clock in the evening, and as I'm telling you this, I'm now sure that there is something very wrong with my colleague. In fact, I am confident that the real her still exists. It's locked somewhere in that body. I know how it sounds, and I really don't know how this works, but whether it's her soul or just her consciousness, it still exists, but it's caged up in whatever that thing is that has overtaken her being. I know I should not doubt myself. I regret not saying anything last week, but that's okay. I'll jot down everything I've learned up to now and hope someone can help explain to me what is going on. What I've now noticed is that at some moments, her face becomes completely distorted. I no longer see the features that made her face unique. Her face loses shape, and her nose loses form. Her eyes become just watery, dark dots, and it all just seems to move and shift ever so slightly. Sometimes slowly circling around as if twisting her face, moving her face organs around to the point it stops having any resemblance to a face at all. I peek around my monitor and watch her keep her body stiff as a rock, while her face morphs into unrecognizable shapes and blurry nightmares. But if those shifts are nightmarish, I don't know how to call those brief flashes of clarity that I keep seeing. As I silently watch her face twist and turn, I sometimes see the actual face of what is creeping inside of that poor girl's body. Clearly, with every fine detail, curve, and indention, I see a face that is nothing like the girl's real face. It's a twisted, caricature-like demonic face, with a smile covering almost all of it. Black lips, black eyes, thick wrinkles around the contour of its mouth. It lasts a second, but that second is so clear. Those eyes are so piercing that it makes my heart drop every time. I feel my heart skip a beat, my blood pressure drops. I saw it 3 times now, and every time my heart palpitates so much that I have to run off to the bathroom and calm myself down. Whatever is in her, it sees me, and just a glimpse of it brings me to my knees. Of course, nobody around us notices this apart from me, but I now know why it is so. Her blurry face, as I like to call it, has a strange hypnotic effect. I think the same effect has been used before as well, but maybe not to the same extent. Maybe the more her face morphs, the more she has an impact. But what I'm saying is that the blurry face sucks you in. You can't stop staring, and the longer you do, the farther you fall in. It becomes a twisted vortex that guides you into an abyss, and the deeper you go, the more you lose. I now know that first comes to mind. That explains why I was unable to really recollect when this all started or what changed in her. This makes perfect sense if you think about it, though. Memories are a part of our inner self that is most available, most at the top of our subconscious. We can remember quite easily. It's pretty effortlessly accessible. However, it is part of what defines us as human beings. I think that's why, in her initial state, when her vortex was just starting to form, she could conveniently start sucking up our memories. You don't use all of your memories all the time. It's easy to not notice that something has disappeared. And little by little, without you catching a glimpse, you start to lose your identity. Following this path of thought of mine, I think the next state that succumbs to her is our visual senses. Again, I think it makes perfect sense. As her pull increases, she can go deeper. While memories can be defined by many senses, the strongest are the visual ones. And to be completely honest, as I stare her down and get lost in her twisting spells, my head begins to pulsate. It feels like a migraine, but I had migraines my entire life, and it's something different. I can feel the pain behind my eyes, as if the veins around them are being squeezed and starved. It's almost as if my eyes and that frontal part of my brain are being squished, slowly and surely. I think it's her blurry face that I see is not really there, just a feeling metamorphosizing visually. Her real face is the devilish one. I'm just struggling to comprehend it. Finally, don't let me forget to mention this. There's a reason why I think the real her is still there. Somewhere locked up deep inside of that thing. I snooped around one day around her table. I did not find anything out of the ordinary at first, but once I opened her desk drawer, I saw pictures. These childishly drawn paintings, maybe 3 or 4 of them inside. I only managed to catch a glimpse of the top one. I saw a little girl, very crudely drawn at the center of the page. Around her, a dark circle, drawn over and over again. I didn't catch any more details before she came back to her desk. I pretended that she was the one that left the drawer open, but I still challenged her about the picture. I acted as if I just accidentally saw it, and was quite concerned about what the picture entailed. She explained that it was just part of her group activities, art therapy, she said. It was obvious she did not buy my explanation, and neither did I. But that's fine. That thing inside of her has seen me already, and I know that it knows that I see it too. January 28th, 2021. I have not posted once again, but I can explain why. As soon as I wrote my last update, I immediately felt sick. I puked my guts out for what seemed as an eternity. Fever struck my body, and I became extremely sensitive to light. I wanted to post it. God knows I did. But I just could not find the strength in me. For the entire night, I drowned in my sweat. The pain behind my eyes was almost unbearable, and it still is. Eventually, I fell asleep for a little while. I have not been to work yet. I called a doctor, and he immediately said it's the flu and that I should stay at home. I am sure that there is no flu. My body is heavy. I find it incredibly difficult to move. It's even more difficult to keep my eyes open. It's tense. I feel like my optic nerves are pulsating more and more. The tension it causes is splitting my eyeballs open, tearing my retinas. I see black spots whenever I open my eyes and look at any source of light. I see bright shapes floating whenever I close them. It's all just so excruciatingly painful. The fever has not subsided at all. In fact, it has gotten much worse. I am now in a constant state of trembling, and I feel so very cold. And my skin has become incredibly sensitive. If I put the tip of my finger onto my forearm, my skin turns white and stays like that for hours. I feel like this is a blessing. I've turned this symptom into a tool of communication. I've been scratching in short messages onto my arm, legs, and chest. The words would stay there for a while, and every time I would see them, they would remind me of what was happening to me. That I was in a fight with a beast. And they would keep me sane. It feels as the world fades, they would not disappear, but would fall into my body, get moved to my subconscious, and I would feel a wave of strength to continue fighting. I have fallen into a pattern of self-pity. I hate the bitch for joining whatever cult that she did and bringing this undeniably evil force into our lives. This evil is now with me. My body is trying to defend itself as much as it can, but it is obvious that this is a losing battle. I now constantly see the horrific demonic face. It is always there with me, always staring and smiling at me. I can see it, just on the edge of my peripheral vision, just enough to know that it is there. Today, I mustered the courage to look straight at it, but, of course, it disappears immediately. It was not gone. I could still feel it teasing me as its nails sank deeper into my head. As I write this now, I can see its face again in the shadowy corner of my bedroom. I tried to walk to the kitchen and force myself to eat. My feet felt like they were glued to the floor. I could barely lift them. My back hurt, and I could not keep straight. I held myself against the wall as I watched my feet sink into the ground, each time just a little bit deeper until it reached my ankles, and I fell. I crawled to the cold tiles of the kitchen floor and passed out. There was a brief moment between me losing my vision and losing my consciousness. I remember thinking how nice the coldness felt on my cheek. I woke up feeling slightly better. I think the beast might have loosened its grip on me once I gave up fighting. It's still watching me from afar. I ate dry cereal and immediately started writing this. I don't know why I so desperately want to share this with you. I don't expect anyone to be able to help me. I feel like I'm dying and this is my only grip on who I am. Or rather, once was. Today is February 19th, 2021. I know a lot of time has passed, but I still feel like I owe it to myself and to you to finish this. Things escalated pretty quickly since my last entry. However, I feel like going too much into detail might be detrimental to my health, so I will not. I don't remember much of the morning that followed that day, but what I can recollect, and from what I have been told, is that I showed up at work. Once I wrote my last post, it felt a bit like a letter of defeat, and I felt like my last battle would be to go straight to the source of my anguish and confront it. They told me I showed up half-dressed, wet from sweat, and my clothes were extremely filthy. I moved with determination and did not respond to anyone questioning whether I was okay or what was going on. I attacked her. I threw my colleague onto the ground and wrapped my fingers around her throat. They said I was almost foaming from my mouth. I do remember her on the ground. I remember her face, initially still morphing, but the harder I squeezed, the clearer it became, and I could see her actual self slowly emerge. As such, I closed my grip even more. At the next moments, I remember it was me being held by my hands as I struggled to get loose. I saw her on the floor, coughing and holding her throat as people ran towards her. She seemed normal. There was no demon in her then. Police came and took me away. I think they tried taking a statement from me a few times, but I could hardly speak. I was then transferred to some kind of hospital. For the past few days, I have been recovering from my sickness. The fever has subsided. My eyes don't hurt anymore. I do not feel like myself, however. Officers have been coming and talking to me. I do not have much to share with them. I have regular meetings with a therapist working at the hospital. After some hesitation, I did open up to her. Initially, she did not want to share her thoughts about my situation, but I kept asking. She said she suspects high levels of anxiety, possibly depression, that I had repressed for a long time that might have emerged in a form of delusion. I still am not sure whether I believe her. I asked her about my colleague. She said she spoke to her. I asked her what might have happened to her. Why did she become so incomprehensible? "Nothing," she replied, and stared me down with a strict, unforgiving look. "She's just happy."